TV. Number one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's 10 o'clock. Good morning on this Monday, 9th of January. I'm Mark Day right now in Ottawa, -4, -3 in Smith Falls. Here's what's making news right now. LRT service remains partially disrupted right now. City News reporter Chris Curries with more on when full service could resume.
As was the case last week, we're looking at two rail loops, Tunney's to U Ottawa and Blair to Tremblay, with R1 bus service running from Blair to Rideau, which officials hope will alleviate some congestion. Two of the four immobilized trains have been removed from the tracks, and officials are expecting this will still be the situation tomorrow.
I appreciate that these past few days have been difficult for you, and that restoring full Line 1 service has taken longer than expected.
Transit boss Renee Amilcar says OC Transpo will continue to provide regular updates, and that experts will be meeting today to discuss what happened and what's best to do moving forward. As for the freezing rain that was the cause of this event, Rideau Transit Maintenance's early expectation is that it caught them by surprise, but it isn't anything catastrophic. Chris Curries, City News.
Well, the president of Brazil is vowing to track down everyone involved in the storming of that country's Capitol buildings over the weekend. Our Alex Bloomfield has the latest.
There's a heavy police presence in Brasilia this morning as cleanup begins inside the presidential palace, Congress building, and Supreme Court. ABC's Matt Rivers explains why demonstrators breached all three buildings on Sunday, inflicting heavy damage and vandalizing nationally significant articles.
Protesters demanding De Silva leave office, calling him an illegitimate president as they entered government offices for what some called an occupation.
President Lula da Silva pointing his finger at both his predecessor for pushing claims of election fraud since his October 30th defeat, while also accusing police in the capital of failing to do their duty. Former President Jair Bolsonaro tweeting from his new home in Florida that he was not involved and condemned the violence, but some U.S. lawmakers are now calling for him to be kicked out of the country. Prime Minister Trudeau offering his support for Lula on Twitter. Alex Bloomfield, City News.
City News time 10:03, and some breaking news right now. The federal government has finally announced a deal to buy 88 replacement jets for our aging CF-18s. City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney has the details.
A final deal is now finally in place for a purchase that has spanned more than a decade. The Trudeau government is buying the F-35 fighter jet from Lockheed Martin for our next fleet at a cost of $19 billion. However, the total life cycle cost of the planes is estimated at around $70 billion, which includes maintenance and infrastructure upgrades. The deliveries will be incremental in order to slowly train and transition the Air Force to the new plane. The first four aircraft should be delivered in 2026, with the fleet fully operational sometime between 2032 and 2034. Now, the government says the deal comes with economic benefits for Canada's aerospace and defense industries, estimated at $425 million and 3,300 jobs annually over a 25-year period. The process to purchase replacement jets has been a troubled one that's lasted more than a decade. In 2010, the F-35 was the pick of the former Harper government, but there was a controversy around not having an open competition and technical concerns, which caused them to back out of the deal. Both the Harper and Trudeau governments restarted the process. Back in 2015, the Prime Minister vowed not to buy the plane, later backtracking on that promise. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And we'll have more reaction to that announcement throughout the day. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. We have a very busy show for you today. We're going to be talking a lot about LRT. We want to get right to it with Councillor Glenn Gower. Hello, Councillor.
Good morning.
Councillor, I'm sure it doesn't feel like a Monday to you because I think you've worked all weekend. Glenn, of course, is the chair of the Transit Committee as well. Give us an update about the trains, of course, which were damaged in that freezing rainstorm.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have been hard at work this weekend. Probably a good idea to say thank you, especially to the frontline workers who've been outside in some very cold weather working through the weekend. They made some progress over the weekend. There were 2 trains on track 1 that were removed, and they're working today to make repairs on the track 2, including removing the remaining trains. So we're hoping for good progress today. What it means for people who are using OC Transpo, from Tunney's to U of Ottawa, the train is running in a loop every 5 minutes. And from Blair to Tremblay in the East End, the train is running every 5 minutes. They've extended the R1 replacement buses this morning, so they're running between Blair and Rideau to make it easier for people in the East End to get towards downtown. And that's running at least every 10 minutes. And during peak hours, they're trying to add additional service to meet with the demand. So there are going to be some disruptions. It's another difficult day of commuting for OC Transpo customers.
Councillor, let me ask you this. When we think about all of the challenges that the LRT has had, it also includes challenges for the bus service. So we're hearing that a lot of buses are packed to the gills, can't get one more person on them. How has it impacted bus service?
Well, when they run replacement buses, they do need to take buses off of other regular routes, so there will be other routes affected. I know they're adjusting that in real time as we go throughout the morning and throughout the day. And yes, I've heard about that too. There are some buses that are ending up very crowded for the replacement buses, and there'll be some cancellations here and there of regular routes. So we're really reminding people to go to octranspo.com for all of the latest updates. Go to OC Transpo Live if you're on Twitter, and you can receive updates there about any kind of cancellations. You can also call 613-560-1000 before you head out and get the latest up-to-date schedules for your routes, but plan ahead. Now, I've heard from some people who've said they've had a fairly normal commute today in terms of the time. We've heard from others it's been longer, so this is a frustrating day. It's going to take some people longer to get to work and school and appointments, and obviously we're supporting OC Transpo and their work with their partners to get the repairs done so they can reopen and be back to regular service as quickly as possible.
We've seen some unconfirmed video of some of the workers. We understand they're RTG and RTM workers working, and they're frustrated. You're frustrated. Residents are frustrated. What would you say in terms of how quickly this is going to be resolved?
Well, we don't have a timeline yet. We had good progress over the weekend, and there's a plan today to make repairs, to remove the trains, to do the safety inspections. As soon as it's safe to resume service, that train service will resume, and we need it to happen as soon as possible. We're on day 5 here of the interruption. That's a long time. You know, we expect with any kind of storm, we always expect there might be some minor delays, but 5 days of interruption, that's really not acceptable, and it's having a major impact on commuters right now.
So obviously you're looking for answers. We're all looking for answers. That special transit meeting, I understand, isn't slated until next month. Are you going to call a special transit meeting sooner than that to get some of these answers and respond to the residents here in Ottawa?
Well, looking at what's our role as city councillors and as transit commissioners, it's certainly not our role to defend OC Transpo, but at the same time, at this stage, they're just beginning the post-mortem this morning to understand, were procedures followed properly? Is there more that they could be doing? How have they organized the replacement buses? How have the customer communications be? So, if we start second-guessing things and asking questions right now, we're probably not going to have those answers answers. We do need to have those answers. We have a Transit Commission meeting in early February, and it's definitely going to be on the agenda there. Like I said before, this is a normal freezing rain event. We expect to have some minor issues, minor delays, but not something that would take out a system for 5 days. So I have a lot of questions. I know my council colleagues do, and I know residents and customers do as well. And we're going to have to get those answers, and we will in that next Transit Commission meeting.
We're speaking with Councillor Glenn Gower, Chair of the Transit Committee, and of course, Councillor in Stittsville. When you think about everything that's happened in terms of the LRT inquiry report, did you pull out that report this weekend and look at some of those recommendations and see how some of those can be implemented during this 5-day shutdown?
Actually, I did. I did look through the report recommendations and looking at specific things around winter weather and around communications and so on. And, collectively as a council, we've committed to we want to implement those report recommendations. Some of them are already underway, and we have a new LRT oversight committee that's going to be part of their job is tasked with making sure that those report recommendations do get implemented, and making sure that in the short term and the long term that we have good, consistent, reliable service for both buses and trains in our city.
I think the phrase that still sticks with me is the unproven technology piece. Does that phrase in the report haunt you in terms of what we have now for a system?
There are a lot of, I think the report was really useful in having a third party, having an outsider come in and look at the system and provide recommendations and a route that we have to take forward. So it's important that we understand everything that's in that report and that we're committed to implementing the 103 report recommendations.
And Councillor, how do you communicate with all of your fellow councillors and your communication with Mayor Mark Sutcliffe? What has that looked like over the last couple of days?
Yeah, well, I spoke with the mayor last night, and I've been speaking with and texting a number of councillors. We're also getting regular updates from OC Transpo. I think the media is getting those at the same time to share them out to residents. So we're getting 2 or 3 main updates and then some smaller updates throughout the day as there's information to share. So I think communication internally has been fairly good right now. I know there's been some concerns about communications out to passengers at stations and so on, but there are some additional staff out, especially during peak hours. If anyone gets to a station and they're wondering, where do I go for one of the replacement buses, or how do I get to where I'm going, there are staff at the stations that you can talk to, and they're there to help you find your way during these disruptions.
I had one resident reach out to me last week when the bus, my apologies, when the train got stuck on the track. There was about 37 people there on that train for about an hour. The question that was posed to me, which I don't know the answer to, and I don't know if you do, is what happens if someone that is on that train and the train is stopped because everyone had to get off and walk down the track? What happens if there's someone on there with a disability? How are they to get off that train? Is there protocols in place?
Well, there are protocols, but there's another good question. I think at this stage where the repairs are still underway, it's a little too early to start guessing at what those answers might be. But yes, there are protocols and procedures to help people who might have mobility issues, and I'm sure it's a question that's going to come up when Transit Commission meets.
Are you, and I've asked you this question a couple of times, and I'm asking it to you because I really want to understand. This is a big role that you've taken on. As councillor of Stittsville, you've taken on the role of chair of the Transit Committee, and we know that, the councillor that held that position before, Alan Hubley, said he didn't want it again. I don't think he would have gotten support to have it again. But are you absolutely 100% sure that this system that we have in Ottawa, the LRT, is it safe?
It is absolutely safe. That's not to minimize that there are some short-term and long-term fixes and changes that we need to pursue and ensure happen as a council, and that's stemming from the Justice Horrigan's report and the report recommendations. The system is only going to operate in Zoom if it's absolutely 100% safe to do so.
Thank you so much for your time today. I know you've got a lot of pressures on your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for helping to keep residents up to date. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Chair of the Transit Committee and Councillor for Stittsville, Glenn Gower, spending time with us today. We're going to speak with Laura Shantz a little bit later. She's with Ottawa Transit Riders and get her perspective as well. Any of the breaking news that comes out of the LRT, you will hear it first here on City News. You want to lock it in all morning. Stay with us.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
My name is Chase Nicholas. I am a Mi'kmaq hockey player. Growing up, I always remember my family talking about the Mi'kmaq as the creators of the game of hockey. In grade 7, I did research on Mi'kmaq hockey sticks as the first sticks of the NHL. I found a Mi'kmaq hockey stick made in 1917, the same year the NHL was formed. I was surprised to find out the very stick I was holding was made by my great-great-grandfather, Alexander Cope. In 1934, an elder known as Old Joe Cope wrote a letter to the Halifax Herald claiming the Mi'kmaq created hockey. I found out later that I am a direct descendant of Old Joe Cope. There was a time when Mi'kmaq children were torn from their families and not allowed to speak their language, losing their words and stories. But the stories are coming back to us. Stepping on the ice, I take pride knowing the roots of the game of hockey stem from my ancestors in the Mi'kmaq Nation.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's Monday, everyone. You made it. It's Monday. We're here with a very busy week ahead here on City News, and we're so glad that you're joining us. Kathy Taylor is joining us as well, Executive Director for the Ontario Nonprofits Network. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Sam.
Kathy, I understand that the ONN is really taking a look at the budget for 2023 and making recommendations to the province. Walk us through why you're taking such an important stance on this.
Yeah, that's such a good question, Sam. You know, the provincial budget is always an opportunity for citizens, organizations, industries, and sectors to provide input and feedback to the government about what they see as important. And the budget is one of those pieces of legislation that does indicate for the government where their priorities lie. So the more that we can provide information and, knowledge, experience from the ground so that governments can take that and ideally, make better decisions that will impact our communities, the better. So this year we've put together a pre-budget submission for the provincial government, but we're also encouraging nonprofits and charities across Ontario to get involved, to participate in a budget consultation, to talk with their MPPs about the budget, to identify the priorities that are important to them locally, but as well at a provincial level.
Because I think, and I've said this before on this show, that I think when the pandemic hit, a lot of, sort of government officials and politicians went, well, charity will look after that. But at the same time, charity lost a lot of their volunteers. Donations went down. People were a little bit nervous, kept money a little bit closer to them, nervous about what the stock market was doing and all of those types of things. And people were working from home sometimes. And I often joke that, people were sent home with Commodore 64s. I mean, people are not being, a lot of times technology is the last thing to be upgraded for a charity. We're expected to work off of paper and pen in many cases. So I think that's why I think it's really important, and why I want to invite you on today, because I think this charity sector has been leaned on in a very big way, and government doesn't understand that if donations don't come in, the work doesn't get done, and people are tapped, and the industry as a whole is tapped.
Exactly. And I think what we've seen, and we've been doing surveys throughout the last 3 years of nonprofits and charities in Ontario just to see where they're at and what they need. And what's been incredibly consistent across every survey and every conversation we have is that the demand for services is up, revenue is down, volunteerism is down, and it's getting harder and harder to recruit and retain staff. And so there are pieces of that the government is responsible for, skills development funding, support for human resources, and the fundraising, like online fundraising, event fundraising, just hasn't been able to fill that gap because that hasn't bounced back either. So it really has led to increasingly, and when you throw on inflation on top of that, a really difficult place for nonprofits and charities. And rather than getting easier as the pandemic wanes or not wanes, depending on where we're at, it's actually getting more difficult, and we've seen a lot more closures of programs and services that people count on every day. And so helping the government to understand at all levels, municipal, provincial, federal, in this case, this is the provincial budget, but helping them understand that they have levers, they have ways that they can support these organizations to keep them afloat because the communities actually count on it. And these services are much better done by local community organizations.
So you have 2 minutes, let's say, with Premier Doug Ford. What are you saying to the Premier?
I'm saying that nonprofits and charities are an incredible role in our economy. They contribute so much to our GDP. They employ 844,000 people in Ontario, so they're a large industry, and they need special support. So we need an associate minister or someone in cabinet that advocates for nonprofits and charities, just like we have someone that advocates for small businesses. We really need to focus on our workforce because it is the workforce of the future, and nonprofit jobs are growing because they are jobs that support individuals, and so those jobs are growing. And we really need to make sure that we don't, Ontario has always had a great volunteerism rate, and there are ways that we can support and encourage more volunteerism in the province that this government has a responsibility for. So there is a huge opportunity for the government to partner with nonprofits and charities. They're ready allies to government. They want to share what they're hearing and learning from communities about what's working and what's not working. And in some cases, they just need that little bit of investment or that little bit of red tape reduction so that they can do their jobs easier.
Well, I think about food banks. I think about healthcare organizations and social services. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of who has more people walking through the door or potentially even more complex issues walking through the door. And sometimes we're just not, and I say we, meaning the nonprofit sector, are not tapped to deal with all of that. And a lot of times these are influenced by government policies. I mean, it's challenging.
Absolutely. So, you're right. The issues are becoming more complex. The needs in our communities are becoming more complex. For sports organizations and arts organizations, our faith communities, like every part of our nonprofit sector is struggling with that combination of staffing, volunteerism, or revenue, and some, maybe in different percentages, but in some ways. And so we want to make sure that we use this opportunity with the budget to identify not just what role we believe the government should have, but what tangible solutions exist, because there are some.
And what do you hear in terms of nonprofit professionals, in terms of people wanting to make a change outside the sector?
We're definitely, like all industries, the labor force shortages and crisis, as it's, called in the media, is affecting our sector. Our sector does pay less than other sectors. And we can argue why that shouldn't be the case, but at the moment it does. And so folks, when inflation goes up, they are having to go to other positions that perhaps has a higher income. So that's one of the things we want to resolve. We really want wage parity or equal pay for equal work that other sectors do. So that's one solution. And we also are hearing that people, and especially young people, actually want to work in our sector. They want to do valuable work where they feel that they're being heard and that they can support their communities directly. So we need to figure out, what are those mechanisms to recruit and retain the young people that are emerging from school programs, so that they come to our sector first. Mm-hmm. So that's part of a broader sort of workforce strategy that we'd love to sink our teeth into.
Well, I'm really dating myself, Kathy, because certainly when I got into this sector, when I'm not here on City News, I work in the fundraising sector, there wasn't programs back then. You could take, there was no Humber or there was no Algonquin College or programs like that. And I'm so glad to see those programs doing so well and really attracting great people. I've had a chance to mentor a few, and it certainly is my honor. Always an honor to speak with you as well, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam, for your passion for the sector.
Appreciate it. Kathy Taylor spending time with us today, Executive Director for the Ontario Nonprofits Network. An important conversation today. We're going to be having a lot of important conversations. We're going to be speaking with a doctor, the chair of the Internationally Trained Physicians of Ontario, about getting some of these internationally trained doctors to work here in this province. 1.3 million people in Ontario do not have access to a family doctor. So what happens? It puts pressure on other healthcare agencies. It puts pressures on those emergency rooms. And let's face it, people without a doctor, it's a real struggle. It really is. I know a lot of my friends are struggling in that way. We're also going to spend some time with Rob Boyd. He has a new title, CEO of Ottawa Inner City Health. And I cannot think of anybody better to take over those big shoes of the one and only Wendy Muckle, who started that position many, many years ago, and she's just retired. And Rob Boyd is taking the helm. We're going to be speaking with him about drug addiction recovery. We're also going to be speaking with the clinical manager of nursing practice and education at CHEO about CHEO nursing students. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with The Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered. And some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
For local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's 10:30. Good morning on this Monday, the 9th of January. I'm Mark Day. Right now, cloudy -3 in Ottawa, Smiths Falls -3. Here's what's making news right now. And some breaking news. The Defense Minister, Anita Anand, says Canada's officially buying the F-35 fighter jet to replace its aging CF-18s, ending the years-long search where it first began. Canada announcing plans to buy the F-35 back in 2010 before politics and government mismanagement scuttled the decision. Now, the government says Canada will ultimately buy 88 F-35s at an estimated cost of $19 billion, with the first aircraft to be delivered in 2026. Officials confirming in a briefing today that Canada will buy the 88 F-35s in a phased approach, with the initial investment including infrastructure upgrades, spare parts, and other one-time costs. Replacement buses still running today, and work to fix the line of the LRT took place over the weekend, but that line is still running, not at full strength. 2 of the 4 trains have been removed from the line, while work is set to take place today to clear the ice and repair wiring to clear the other 2 trains. This means that train service will run in 2 loops from Blair to Tremblay and from Tunney's to University of Ottawa, while R1 bus service is in place from Blair to Rideau. This service, if all repairs go well, expected to be in place tomorrow. Experts are also meeting today to discuss some next steps. And the Prime Minister and the U.S. President are traveling to Mexico for the North American Leaders Summit this week. Trudeau and his wife expected to arrive in Mexico City this afternoon, and Trudeau will take part in a couple of meetings ahead of dinner tonight, hosted by the President of Mexico. Tomorrow, the summit will officially get underway, with Trudeau set to sit down with his American and Mexican counterparts. Experts are urging all 3 leaders to take a continental approach to this week's summit, saying it's key to tackling the economic and foreign policy challenges is key of the post-pandemic world. I'm Mark Day. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you for being with us here on City News. We knew before the pandemic that there was a challenge in this province of people looking for family doctors. During the pandemic, the spotlight on this issue has only gotten bigger. We wanted to connect today with Dr. McKeanie McGuire-Brown. How are you, Dr. McGuire-Brown?
Hello, I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Chair of the Internationally Trained Physicians of Ontario. Before we sort of get into this, tell me about this group. How long have you been operating?
So we are about a year and a half old, and it came out of this sort of grassroots movement to help during the pandemic, and we were not able to, and we pushed to try to help, and then we realized, well, we should turn this into a formal organization, and then we became this advocacy group that also helps our fellow ICP colleagues in accessing resources, and everything is free. We try to do as much as we can. It's volunteer-led, so it's really difficult, but yeah.
What's your story? Are you an internationally trained doctor and you're now working here, or are you hoping to work in Canada?
Oh, I'm hoping to work in Canada. So I came to Canada in 2017. I had already passed all of the qualification examinations. So you probably know doctors have to write, internationally trained doctors have to write several examinations. And so I had already written them. And I hoped to get into a residency program here in Canada. And how residency programs go, you go through a match cycle. So there's one match cycle per year in order to gain access to residency program. And I did not get through that first match cycle, neither in any of the subsequent match cycles since.
And it must be incredibly frustrating for you knowing the pandemic was happening and there were so many challenges and doctors burning out and people, well, as we mentioned just before we brought you on, 1.3 million Ontarians without a family doctor. Do you want to be their doctor?
Well, yes. Thank you. I'd love to. Yes, it is incredibly frustrating. It's also mind-blowing. It's like you can't understand why you have these skills and no one wants to use them, right? Like, I came here, I passed my exams, I showed my medical degree. It was approved as an official, accepted medical degree, and yet still I'm here and I can't practice and I can't help. And you go, you see the hospitals overflowing during the pandemic, during this flu season, the pediatric hospitals overflowing, and you're just like, okay, so hi, I can help, and you just can't. They won't let you.
In preparing for today, we noted that thousands of physicians have immigrated to Canada in recent years. Between the years 2015 and 2021, 2,270 new permanent residents to Ontario identified their intended occupation to be either a primary physician or a specialist physician. You're not alone, right?
No, definitely not alone. I always say, our group is like a year and a half old, and we have approximately 1,600 members. And we're new, we're a relatively young organization. Just think of all the people who haven't yet found us, all of those who were here for a long time, all of those who came in the past year. Not alone. My story is not unique. My story is unfortunate, frustrating, but it's not unique. Thousands of internationally trained physicians go through this every single year.
And how do you keep your skills up? What type of work are you doing now?
Well, that is such a great question because it's one of the major issues, especially in Ontario, because there is no way for you to practice clinical medicine. And so we are left not being able to practice medicine, and then they hold that against us, right? They hold it against us. They say, you don't have any recency of practice, when they didn't provide any ways for me to have recency of practice. So basically, you don't get to practice medicine, and if some people have the means to keep flying back to the country in which they have a medical license to try to keep it up. But many people can't do that. And it shouldn't be an acceptable thing. It shouldn't be that we're depending on immigrants to go back to where they came from to keep up their clinical practice. They came here for a reason, and they came here as doctors, and they should be able to be doctors.
Mm-hmm. Who is the decision maker here? Is it Premier Ford?
Yeah, so that's another great question. The Canadian health system is very fragmented, and so there's a lot of passing of the buck, right? Well, that's not my organization. We can do this, but we can't do that. And it just goes around and around in circles. And so we've always been an advocate for a table where the Premier is there, the MPs, MPPs are there, the different stakeholders, Medical Council of Canada, the CPS, so internationally trained physician organizations such as ours, everyone together at one table making decisions so that no one can say, well, that's not my job, that's their job, because that's what happens. You go into meetings with each of these stakeholders, from government ministers to not-for-profit organizations to regulatory bodies, and they all pass the buck.
Do you remember the moment that you thought, I want to be a doctor? Do you remember that moment?
I
do. Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, I was 7.
7?
Wow. I really loved my pediatrician. So I still have a great relationship with her until this day. And from the time I said that at 7 years old, I never changed my mind. You know, like lots of people have these childhood dreams and then they're just like, yeah, like what was I thinking? Right. But I never changed my mind, you know. I went straight through high school, university, medical degree, worked as a doctor, and my life, that's how it went, you know. And I've had such great patient experiences, and I know that I've helped so many people. But knowing that, or coming here and then having it basically just disappear is a very, very difficult experience.
So if you would have known it was going to be this hard, would you have come to this beautiful country?
No, I would not have. I have to be honest.
That breaks my heart. Yeah.
Being a doctor is a part of your identity. Like, some people, like, their job is their job and their personal is their personal, but being a doctor is such a big part of who you are that it's so difficult to lose it, because you just feel like a piece of yourself is being taken away from you. And it was a very difficult experience. It still is, but, you know, over the years I've had to keep my head up and move on. I got my MBA, I'm doing my PhD, and I'm living my life, but there's a hole, you know. There's always this hole that's there.
And how long can you use the title of doctor if you're not practicing?
Yeah, I don't. There are no rules for that, I think. Okay. I don't know that there's a rule for that. I still maintain my medical license in my country of origin, which is Trinidad and Tobago. So in some ways, I guess I'm always officially a doctor until I lose that license. But yeah, I don't know if there are official rules for that.
The relationship between a doctor and a patient, I am incredibly blessed. I have had my doctor since I was about 25 years old, and she's about maybe 3 or 4 years older than me. So what's wonderful about that is she sort of goes through something and then I tend to be following a couple years later, right? Especially as women, right? So you know, she had babies and I had them 4 or 5 years later, that kind of thing. So the relationship that I have with my doctor, I really would hope everybody would have that kind of relationship where you do really feel like you've got an advocate. You feel like somebody that knows you. There was times where I could walk into her office and she'd be like, "What's wrong?" Like she would know right away, right, by looking at me. Is that part of what you miss, that connection with people?
Oh, big time. Definitely. That is what makes it such a fulfilling job. It's one thing to know the clinical knowledge and the technical knowledge and everything, but it's how you connect with people, because that's how you see how you change their lives. You know, when you have patients that come and give you like this heartfelt thank you afterwards, you know, like almost as if this is the best thing that ever happened to them in their life, then you know you've made a difference. And that's what being a doctor is really all about. And it's really difficult to do that when you're burnt out, by the way. So doctors currently that are overworked, burnt out, it's difficult for them to keep putting out that emotional side of it, which is unfortunate for the patients, right? Mm-hmm.
So what is the next step for you? Are you hoping for another match? Are you looking forward to putting your name forward for a match in 2023?
I did not enter the match. The match opens in the fall, so it opened fall last year. I did not enter the match this year. I would say currently my focus is kind of what I'm doing right here, advocacy, and trying to make sure that it works out better for someone else that comes after me. And of course, I'm my PhD is in administration with a focus on health, so I'm kind of going into the sort of management side of things, which is ironic.
Right.
But this is a big part of what I do now as well, just trying to have less doctors have to feel the way that I felt.
Mm-hmm. It really is heartbreaking to hear your story. And like we said, there's thousands of stories like yours. But you just think about what it takes to become a doctor and then to have these barriers in front of you and to have a dream at 7 years of age to become a doctor and provide that kind of care for people. It really is a heartbreaking story. I didn't expect to feel so emotional about about this interview today, to be honest with you. But I really sense that this is something that is really hard. Not only that you don't get to use your skills, but it's hard on your heart too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very emotional experience. And I think what's so frustrating, though, is that it can be solved. Like, it can be fixed. It can be improved. And I just don't know how many times we have to, say the same things over and over and over and try to get the people who can make decisions and make moves to do it. And I don't know why it's so difficult for them to just be serious about it and do what needs to be done. It can be fixed. It's not like we're in this rut and we can never come out of it, right? It can be fixed.
Thank you, Dr. McGuire-Brown, for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Dr. McKinney McGuire-Brown, Chair of Internationally Trained Physicians of Ontario. A really important conversation. We're going to be speaking on another sort of aside to this is the challenge for nurses. And we're going to speak about a program for CHEO nurses in a little bit as well. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
It was John's graduation. We were so proud. We all got together for a picnic. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and we listened. It helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of John, because now he has a real future to look forward to.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for joining us here on City News. This is a topic that I have spoke about endlessly. I will not stop talking about it. It is the drug problem in this country and in this community. And it is my first time introducing Rob Boyd with his new title, and I could not be more happy that you've taken on this role. And of course, Rob Boyd is the CEO of the Ottawa Inner City Health. Hello, Rob.
Hi, Sam. Nice to be back and nice to be in this new position.
Well, okay, let's just say it out loud. Wendy Muckle, I don't know how she did what she did. She's done an incredible job. Those are big shoes. I can't think of anyone better to fill them. Are you excited about the new role?
I'm very excited about it. This opportunity, I think it's a real privilege to be able to take over from the work that Wendy's done for so long in this community and this amazing organization that she's built. There's a great team here, and I couldn't be more happy with where I am right now.
And Rob, we know the challenge regarding opioids in this country and the challenge we face through this pandemic. There was another pandemic happening, and that was the drug overdoses happening, and they're still happening. Give us a sense of what you're seeing in your new role.
Well, we continue to see a large number of people who are overdosing from this toxic supply of drugs, and we continue to see the deaths, mount with this, and the real challenges that are being kind of faced by this community as they try to keep themselves, as safe as possible. We've got, lots of different programs in place here that are really trying to kind of catch up to what's happening with the drug supply. And when you think about, most of the interventions that we have, like supervised consumption, naloxone, the opiate agonist treatment like methadone and buprenorphine, all of these are really kind of built on a different sort of drug than what it is that we're being faced with the unregulated supply right now. So, there are a lot of them are kind of heroin-based interventions or prescription drug-based interventions, whereas what we're dealing with now is a really, really volatile mix of different chemicals that make it really, really challenging for people. But thank goodness we've got the things that we've got in place, because things would have been much, much worse.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're fighting the good fight, of course, on the front line, but there's a political fight as well, and we're seeing some criticism by Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Federal Conservative Party, in regards to the drug supply and the safe supply. Walk us through what you're seeing here.
Yeah, so just for anybody who's not aware of safer supply programs, it's based on the general public health principle that if you have some tainted lettuce in the supermarket, you try to get rid of that and replace it with lettuce that's not tainted. And so this is the same idea. We do know, it's well documented, the drug supply is toxic and tainted. And so the idea is that we replace it with a prescription-based drug. And the difference between safe supply and, say, opiate agonist treatment is that, the goal of an opiate agonist treatment is to stabilize the individual, to get them to an optimal dose and to eliminate, completely their reliance on other substances. Whereas safer supply, the person who's receiving the prescription has a lot more control over when they use the drugs, how they use the drugs. They could inject it if they want to, and they can also get high on the drugs if they want to. So it's really strictly just this idea of you replace the bad drug with a good drug, but at the same time, you're connecting the person into services. And, we have seen some pretty significant reductions in criminal behavior as a result of people being on safer supply. We've seen a reduction in overdoses and overdose deaths, obviously. And then we've also seen a reduction in the use of drugs from the unregulated market. So we do know that these things are working. And we've also seen people in the program who've gone, who are no longer injecting their drugs, they're just taking them orally, or who have switched into oral opiate agonist treatment. So, over the first couple of years, we've actually seen some quite a good success here. And remember that this is in a market where access to opiate agonist treatment is already available to people. Mm-hmm. So this is something that is attracting a certain group of people who use drugs in this community and is showing some really good positive outcomes.
How challenging is it, Rob, to have to work in a system where politicians and governments make policy? You're seeing what's happening on the front line. You're sort of in the middle, trying to explain to people that make the policy what's happening with people on the street or living in Canada or Orleans that are dying from this unsafe supply. How challenging is it to be that sort of advocate in the middle of those two groups?
Yeah, I mean, it can certainly be, quite challenging. We started out our advocacy stuff under the former Harper government, and there was a lot of work that needed to happen, a lot of education that needed to happen, a lot of advocacy, and that will continue. I mean, we have to do what's right by the community and what the evidence is showing us that we need to do. And unfortunately, people who use drugs and this issue, can be used politically to kind of win the support of a base, on the backs of those who are suffering the most in our community. And the evidence is really clear that these are the types of things that need to happen in order to keep people safe, to keep people well, and to give them another day where something different might happen for them and things might change for the good.
Mm-hmm. I've often asked this question of Dr. Jeff Turnbull, of course, who works with Ottawa Inner City Health, and of Wendy McCall. Why do you do this work, Rob Boyd?
It is such a first of all, the layers of this are very complex, and it certainly can be very rewarding. But I think about the people every day who we see out there struggling, and waking up the next day and then still ready to go on, still wanting to fight the fight. And I just think, like, who am I to give up on them and on this issue? And I think as well, like we can beat this. We can, if we get people aligned on this, and we could get the adequate support and resources going into this this issue, that we can actually make a really big difference in people's lives.
Mm-hmm. And I know you've made a difference in your other roles as well, and this is such a big role to take on. How can we support you? How can we, ensure that the message is being heard at the federal level, the provincial level, and municipally? I mean, you've got a new mayor, you've got new councillors around that table. How important is it that you also share the message with municipal officials to ensure that they're making the right decisions when it comes to monies for budgets, and ensuring that downtown core, once again, is a place where, people feel like they can go, and they're not, sort of seeing syringes on the road and walking down the street and seeing people suffering so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important that all levels of government are educated on this, because we do need all of them. I think that, part of what we need is to make sure that people understand how big this issue and how complex this issue is, and that there aren't actually a lot of really simple answers. And, a lot of people have a very, the popular notion of how recovery happens for people, or even what recovery means for people in terms of, the goal is to get people into rehab and then to get them off drugs, whereas that's really just not the reality when it comes to substance use into treatment, and that we really, we have to think about what recovery really is, which is it's a long process of change for people, and it's something that very few people actually who are in recovery are completely abstinent from drugs. And so there's a lot of this popular thinking out there, and you can see it sometimes in politicians. And again, it's because that's the way we're taught to think about it, that all we have to do is get people into treatment and then the problem's going to go away. But it's far more complex than that. It takes a lot more time. And so I think that's part of what we have to educate, politicians and other policymakers about, is that these are, very complex. Recovery is a very complex thing, and it's not what most people think it is.
Mm-hmm. Let's continue the conversation, okay? Let's talk a lot in 2023 and put a focus on this for my show, and you have an open invitation, okay, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and same to you. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Rob Boyd joining us, CEO of Ottawa Inner City Health. That's a new role for Rob, and one that he is absolutely suited for. We're very excited for him to take on that new role. When we come back, we're heading to CHEO. We're going to be talking about some nursing students and a new program there. You want to stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with the Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Join me for season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
WW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's 11 o'clock. Good morning on this Monday, the 9th of January. I'm Mark Day. Right now, cloudy -3 in Ottawa and in Smith Falls. Here's what's making news right now. And some breaking news from Parliament Hill, where Canada has officially signed a deal to purchase the F-35 fighter jet to replace our aging CF-18 fleet. It's a purchase that has been more than a decade in the making. City News Parliament Hill Bureau Chief Cormac McSweeney joins us now with the details.
An agreement is finally in place.
Canada is acquiring a new fleet of 88 state-of-the-art F-35 fighter jets.
Defense Minister Anita Anand making the announcement in Ottawa, saying the purchase will cost Canada $19 billion. However, total life cycle cost of the plane is estimated around $70 billion. The minister says the F-35 is the best choice for our country.
It is a modern, reliable, and agile fighter aircraft used by our closest allies in missions across the globe.
The transition will be incremental. The first delivery is expected in 2026, and we should have a fully operational fleet by around 2032. The government says there will be economic benefits to the tune of around $425 million and 3,300 jobs annually over a 25-year period. The process to purchase replacement jets has been a troubled one that lasted more than a decade. It started in 2010 with the Harper government, who had to back out on the deal. Then both the Harper and Trudeau governments restarted the process. Back in the 2015 election, the Prime Minister vowed not to buy the plane, but he later backtracked. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And now let's get a check of the forecast. Here's Denise Sandriachi.
Flurries on and off today for pretty much the rest of the day, but late tonight we will quiet down. No active weather threat in the forecast for tomorrow here in Ottawa and Smiths Falls. In fact, hoping that we'll see some sunshine for a change. That would be nice, right? Temperatures will go back to near seasonal for Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday. We bump back up around the freezing mark once again. We do have flurries, mixed precipitation in the forecast for the end of the work week, but for today, just a few flurries, and tomorrow calm and quiet. Our guaranteed high for today, -1.
And right now in Ottawa, Smiths Falls, cloudy and -3. Weekend efforts to restore light rail service have failed. City News reporter Chris Curries with an update on the Confederation line.
2 of the 4 trains stuck on the track near Herdman and Lees were brought back to the maintenance yard, while 2 trains still stuck. Experts meeting today to discuss what happened and what's the plan moving forward. Mario Guerra with Rideau Transit Maintenance.
Make the repairs and
to clean the ice and to conduct the inspections. So I would say at this point, we're looking at least Tuesday. If all goes well.
Trains today will be running in 2 loops from Blair to Tremblay and Tunney's to CHEO, Ottawa, while R1 bus service is in place from Blair to Rideau. Transit boss Renee Amokar says restoring service has taken longer than expected, but says they're doing everything they can under, quote, challenging conditions. Chris Curry's City News.
And the Prime Minister, U.S. President Joe Biden, are in Mexico for the North American Leaders Summit this week. Trudeau, his wife, are arriving in Mexico City. They'll take part in a couple of meetings ahead of a dinner tonight hosted by the President of Mexico. And tomorrow, the summit will officially get underway, with Trudeau set to sit down with his American and Mexican counterparts. Experts are urging all 3 leaders to take a continental approach to this week's summit, saying its key is to tackling the economic and foreign policy challenges of the post-pandemic world. I'm Mark Day. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We're going to be spending a lot of time talking about the LRT today as well. Laura Shantz from Ottawa Transit Riders is going to join us just after the 11:30 news. And Troy Charter as well, Director of Transit Operations at OC Transpo, will be joining us as well. So we're going to be having lots of conversations regarding the LRT. I know it's on your mind today. It's definitely on our mind here at City News. We wanted to go to CHEO today to spend some time today with Allison Gerard. She's the clinical manager of nursing practice and education at CHEO. Hi, Allison.
Good morning.
Allison, I understand there's been some sort of new developments in terms of nursing students at CHEO. What's happened?
Yeah, so late last week, we welcomed 24 nursing students as clinical externs here at CHEO. So this is all in thanks to funding from the Ministry of Health and a new program that we're launching to help nursing students gain more clinical experience here at CHEO with the goal of supporting a more seamless entry into nursing practice when they graduate. So our goal here really is to create a pipeline to help keep some of these nurses long-term when they graduate their nursing studies in the spring.
As such an important step. Is this something, do you think, would have happened if the pandemic didn't happen, or was this pandemic influenced?
That's a great question. You know, I think this is, we talk a lot about trying to right-size the pediatric healthcare system, and certainly, lots in the news lately about the demand that we've had. And this is one initiative that we're trying to launch to really help right-size our system. This is something that's going to help guarantee that we have the nurses and medical professionals we need to serve generations of families for decades to come. And so certainly accelerating the need to think creatively and implement new programs and services.
Mm-hmm. And what has the response been so far?
It's been very exciting. So we have 24 positions for our first cohort that we're launching this month or last week, but we had nearly 160 applicants. And so it's really exciting for us to know that students are thinking about CHEO as a future employer and a destination to come and learn alongside our clinical experts. And so the excitement when they had their orientation last week was just buzzing. Lots of excitement in the room. These students, a lot of them have personal reasons for wanting to come back to CHEO as clinicians when they graduate. Some were patients themselves or had family members who were patients as well. And so they're excited, really keen to get underway. And so it's been a really uplifting experience welcoming them aboard.
Well, I saw some of the photos, and there were certainly lots of smiles. And I'm assuming as well that the nurses that are working at CHEO right now welcome the help and the opportunity for these new students as well.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of fantastic nurses here at CHEO, and this is an opportunity for them, too, to share their clinical expertise, to support our learners, and really to help develop some future colleagues. And so time invested now into really bringing these students up to speed will pay off in dividends when they come back, hopefully, as staff, and are that much more familiar with how things work and have all of that additional experience and knowledge under their belts.
Help me understand, Allison, the process? Somebody applies to go to nursing school. Are they going to university or college or both?
It could be both. Yep. So this cohort of clinical externs is focused on fourth-year BSCN students, but the actual eligibility for the extern program is for earlier years of nursing students and for other healthcare professionals as well. So we are looking to expand this program in the spring to meet those demands as well. But these nurses would go to nursing school. They would continue all of their formal education and formal clinical placements, and these extern positions are on top of that. So it's a way for them to get more experience in a hands-on way, so that when they graduate, they can really seamlessly enter clinical pediatric nursing practice.
I have a lot of respect for nurses, Allison. I could never, ever do that work. Huge hats off to all of the nurses. But I would assume that being hands-on, being in an incredible institution like CHEO would be the best way to really know if this is what they want to do full-time and move forward with their careers, but also to get that that experience that you just cannot get other than at the bedside or in a facility like CHEO.
Absolutely, and this cohort of students, have said exactly that. Like they think that this is where they want to be, and so this is an opportunity for them to really solidify that as they near the end of their program and start thinking about applications for permanent positions. And so, our goal here is that many of them will transition and join our teams in full-time clinical roles later this year.
And how is everybody at CHEO? We know that obviously it's been a very trying time through the pandemic, and then we saw sort of that trifecta, if you will, of RSV and the flu and COVID. How is everybody managing?
Yeah, so we've definitely had an unprecedented viral season thus far, a very busy holiday season around here at CHEO. We continue to be very busy and continue to ask people to do their part. But programs like this and some of the happier news really helps to uplift the teams. So we continue to be thinking forward and being inspired by our extern program, who are coming back to work alongside of us and help us out.
Thank you so much. Allison Gerard joining us today, Clinical Manager of Nursing, Practice and Education at CHEO. Thanks for sharing the good news, Allison.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it very much. Allison joining us today, sharing that good news. We spoke with a doctor a little bit earlier that came to this country hoping to practice medicine and hasn't been able to do so. So much red tape. So we like to see some of this red tape being cut through, and the program we just talked to Allison about in terms of nurses is a good step forward for sure. When we come back, my colleague, City News web editor Anil Jolly, will be in the studio with me. And then we're going to be taking a very, very deep look at what's happening with the LRT. Laura Shantz from Ottawa Transit Riders will be here to talk about the challenges that started last Wednesday with the LRT when that freezing rain hit the capital. Troy Charter, Director of Transit Operations with OC Transpo, will be here as well to talk about the LRT and give us a bit of an update. And Bob Chiarelli, former mayor of Ottawa, is going to give us his insight as well into what's happening with the LRT. You'll want to lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
My husband is a wonderful man and a great father when he's not drinking. I'm so angry he chooses alcohol over us. If he really loved us, he'd stop drinking, right? My counselor suggested I try Al-Anon. I didn't understand why. I'm not the one with the problem, but I'm glad I went. Do you worry about someone's drinking? You are not alone. Al-Anon or Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
My mother said we had to leave home. The communists were going to take my father away. If my parents were afraid, they didn't show us. But we would never forget our escape from Vietnam. We were lost.
What was your job in Vietnam? University professor.
We had no home.
Do you have any family in Canada?
No, sir. Nobody wanted us.
Welcome to Canada.
Canada chose us.
Canadians opened their borders, their homes, and their hearts to more than 100,000 refugees fleeing persecution after the Vietnam War.
We were home.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
Continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's rare, but I love it when it happens. I have an in-studio guest today, and it's our very own Anil Jolly, City News web editor. Normally, we speak to you on Fridays.
Yes.
But Friday was a very busy day with the LRT. We had you hopping out there, so we decided today to talk a little bit about the LRT because the story isn't over.
It's not over, Sam. The repairs stretched into the weekend. Those trains have been stranded since Wednesday, so it's been quite the weekend. We did update the website and the stories that have been going on, but it's constant, it's ongoing. So.
And the challenge we know, not only obviously when the trains aren't working, but we know that there's always a communications issue. We did hear from Jocelyn Turner, who's OC Transpo's communications director.
We'll continue to share the latest information on Line 1 and R1 bus service to our customers via all our social media platforms. We will also send direct text messages to customers to alert them of any changes. Our website, octranspo.com, will be updated throughout the day with the latest information. On the ground, customers will see our OC Transpo team present at key stations throughout the system to answer any questions and provide the support they may need to get where they need to go. We will have staff at all Line 1 stations during peak period, provide as much coverage as possible. Signs will be visible at all stations, making it clear where R1 bus service is available.
It's reassuring to hear from OC Transpo, that was Jocelyn Turner, their comms director, about where staff were going to be, how they were going to be updating. But this has been a constant issue with the LRT is the communications piece. And I'm looking to you because you rely on this. So do we here, of course, in studio as talk show hosts, but as our digital news editor, this is a really big piece.
Yes, Sam, you're absolutely right. And I found that the communication aspect, the relaying of the information, not only to the constituents, but to the media has been a lot better than it has been in the past. I think there's been more of that information because, people need those updates. They need to know, okay, what do I have to do today? How am I going to get around? And for us, the media, it's our job to inform the public and let them know what's going on and the latest updates. And we found it on the weekends. We had a news conference on Sunday, late afternoon on Sunday. So the information has been coming out, and I've been finding that they've been able to relay that information a lot better.
And we, I don't know about you, but I find that since this latest challenge, which started Wednesday with that freezing rain, in the back of my mind is this LRT inquiry report. I keep seeing pieces of it every time, something's said. I'm thinking, well, they addressed that in the report. They addressed that in the report. The unproven technology, and I don't know about you, when you saw the videos, certainly I did, when I saw the videos of the freezing rain at the beginning, and then the subsequent damage that was done to the system, exactly, the sparks, the arcing, and all of that. I kept hearing the term unproven technology in my brain because those terms were not used ever before.
No.
So what did you think when you saw those videos and subsequent information?
Well, anytime you see sparks, Sam, on that system, it raises a red flag with safety concerns and things like that. But like you said, that report came out last November, and we saw the recommendations, and I had a lot of high hopes for this system, with a new council being able to move forward, but the problems continually are plaguing. It just seems that the system hasn't been. We get freezing rain in Ottawa all the time. We get a lot. Winters in Ottawa aren't anything new. We know what the winters are capable. It just seems that the system wasn't able to handle that kind of weather. So where do we go from here? I don't know.
We know we heard a lot prior to his retirement. John Manconi spoke a lot with the media. We haven't heard a lot from Renee Elmocart. She's the new general manager there. We have invited her to be on with us here on City News. She did share a little bit about the weekend repairs.
Saturday, RTM removed ice buildup and prepared to return the stock trains to the MSF. The attempts to move the trains were unsuccessful and resulted in further damage to the overhead wires. At this time, OC Transpo brought in STV to provide additional external oversight. In addition to TRA, who was already supervising, STV was brought in to closely monitor RTM's work, provide independent advice to OC Transpo, and confirm that we have a solid plan to safely return service. RTM spent Saturday making repairs to the damaged overhead wires in the affected area. Once repairs were complete, RTM conducted a thorough inspection of 2.8 kilometers of overhead wires. Early this morning, RTM performed a follow-up sweep of the inspection section. This afternoon, we were able to recover the stock trains and return them to the MSF.
And we've had to rely a lot on the bus service this weekend as well. We heard, of course, all of the repairs that were taking place. The pressure on the bus system is also a big part of this story, because that R1 isn't just waiting in the wings. You have to pull other buses off the service. You're talking about, obviously, drivers and making sure OC Transpo staff are available. It's just not turnkey.
No, it's not turnkey at all, Sam. And you have to kind of feel for those operators as well. The shuffling that's going on, especially when it happens to the LRT, things have to get shuffled around. People still have to get around. Now we're being told, that the repairs might stretch into Tuesday, and who knows what the update will happen. But we're going on day 5 now. We had Councillor Gower on this morning saying, it was unacceptable, and he's not wrong. We're stretching into 5 days of service on a system that people are relying on, and the issues are plaguing and ongoing.
And we know Mario Guerrera from RTM spoke about a meeting of experts.
We'll be looking at 3 different things. The first one is to determine if the existing OCS is safe for revenue service. Secondly is lessons learned. Is there anything we can do prior to these events that will put us in a better position? For example, one thing we're looking at is de-icing materials maybe on the OCS. And then the third one is to look at technologies that may be available to help us prevent these type of events. So we're going to be looking at all 3 of those areas.
And I don't mean to be grumpy, Anil. I'm thinking, is this a little late for these kinds of things to be talked about? Is this not something that should have been talked about $2.1 billion ago?
3 years ago? Yeah, absolutely. The system has been plagued from the start. And it's, like you said, $2.1 billion investment for a system that was handed over that wasn't ready to be handed over. And we are seeing the issues constantly piling up. And the people of Ottawa, the transit users that rely on this service, that have been relying on this service since day one, aren't getting what they paid for. And you can see the effects of it. The system hasn't been equipped to handle our winter weather. It's no secret that we're going to get freezing rain. We always get freezing rain, but it hasn't been equipped to handle it. So yes, it's a little late to have this meeting, but having this meeting, we'll see what happens through this meeting.
And we know that it's frustrating, of course, for the staff working there, and we know that they've been working all weekend, and hats off to them. It can't be an easy job to try and fix this with all of the political pressure, the pressure from riders, the pressure from residents. But we know that there was an unconfirmed video of some dissension amongst the ranks, if you will, of people working on this train. That can't make it any easier.
No, when there's, just alleged, in-house fighting or any kind of, quarreling amongst the people that are responsible, the blame game can begin. But I mean, we all want the same thing. We all want this transit system to work. We want the powers that be to come up with a solution and be able to move forward to give people of Ottawa the confidence in the system that they have asked for.
Do you think this type of thing happens in other cities? Like, how does Montreal, and you're a world traveler, Anil, how does Montreal and Toronto deal with these types of things? I mean, I know they've got different systems, but we're not alone.
No, we can't be alone. I don't know how they would handle it in other systems, but I've traveled to Toronto a lot. My wife's family is there. I mean, things seem to be running there adequately, and I don't hear about the politics behind it and everything like that. So I wouldn't be able to comment on that. But I mean, it's frustrating, not just for the transit riders, but of course the taxpayers of Ottawa as well. The people that don't, because we hear about it. I don't ride transit, but I hear about it, from friends that do or family members that do, and it's frustrating.
And people relying on it to get to their work, and they're arriving an hour late. I mean, that can you imagine if you and I showed up an hour late? There would be dead air here for an hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would I do, right?
What would we do? And imagine that person needing to get to work or get to class, and that's the only way they can get around.
I saw a post from a friend of mine today. Her daughter is going to Algonquin College, and she was trying to think of a way to get her from Orleans to Algonquin College today. And honestly, it seemed like it would have been quicker to get her to Newfoundland. It, just the way that she tried to try and, could she take this spot? Because she was trying to learn the system too, right? My daughter knows the system way better than I do because she actually uses the system.
Okay.
But, this mom was trying to figure out how to get her daughter there on a very first day, which is today. So that added stress of it. So it is impacting people's everyday life, which is very challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, parents having to get their kids to work and then having to get themselves to work. I mean, it just has kind of a ripple effect on everybody's day. And, we're going into day 5. We're supposed to have this. They said that, repairs should be done by tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
Very, very interesting. We're following it very closely. Laura Shantz, Ottawa Transit Riders, is going to join us right after the 11:30 news. Troy Charter, Director of Transit Operations at OC Transpo, will join us as well a little bit after that. And Bob Chiarelli, former Ottawa Mayor, is going to join us. We know that he's very passionate about the LRT. We're going to get his sense of what's happening. You want to lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with The Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Hi, I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
News, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's 11:30. Good morning on this Monday, the 9th of January. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, cloudy at -2. Here's what's making news right now. Canada buying 88 new F-35 fighter jets at a cost of $19 billion. Defense Minister Anita Anand says the first aircraft set for delivery in 2026. Each jet will cost roughly $85 million U.S. The F-35s will replace the Royal Canadian Air Force's aging fleet of CF-18s. Now, the Canadian government's first announcing these plans to buy the jets, the F-35s, back in 2010, before politics and government mismanagement shelved the program. Replacement buses are set to run once again this afternoon. Work to fix the line of the LRT took place over the weekend, but the line is still not running at full strength. 2 of the 4 trains have been removed from the line, while work is set to take place today to clear the ice and repair wiring to clear the other 2 trains. This means that train service will run in 2 loops from Blair to Tremblay and from Tunney's Pasture to the University of Ottawa, while the R1 bus service is in place from Blair to Rideau. Now, the service, if all the repairs go well, still expected to be in place for tomorrow. Experts are also meeting today to discuss next steps. The Prime Minister, his wife, left Ottawa today for Mexico City. Trudeau, the U.S. president, Mexican president, will open their Three Amigos summit tomorrow. This afternoon, Trudeau will take part in a discussion with business leaders from across the continent. Tomorrow's morning's meeting is scheduled to be a one-on-one with U.S. President Joe Biden. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, of course, the hot topic today is the LRT, and it's been the hot topic a lot, unfortunately. We wanted to spend time today with Laura Shantz from Ottawa Transit Riders. Hi, Laura.
Good morning.
Laura, we're speaking again, I should say, about the challenges from last Wednesday's freezing rain. What are you hearing from riders?
You know, I'm hearing a lot of frustration. This morning there were a lot of hiccups, a lot of difficulty just getting on to some of those R1 buses that ended up really full, especially, heading towards the University of Ottawa where students are back in class and toward downtown. Also, I'm hearing just a lot of kind of defeatism. It's pretty tricky. If you remember when we spoke last week, we were saying, oh, thank goodness this is happening on a week when not everyone's got to go places. And here we are. It's now the next week, and we're still struggling.
And Laura, when you say still struggling, the system, of course, was running really well. We tend not to talk when that happens, right? But then
Absolutely.
We have freezing rain come, and it's not like it's a surprise here in Ottawa that we get freezing rain. We have the challenge happen, and then in trying to fix that original challenge, then the system got other technical challenges with it, and the arcing happened. We know it's been, of course, off all weekend, and just sections of it. Still, sections are running. Does it make it complicated, do you think, for riders when they're trying to get, let's say, from the east to downtown, because sections are just not even operating?
Absolutely. It adds an extra layer of challenge, especially on a day, as I said, when many people are trying to return to normal activities. And maybe if they were out of town last week, they might not be up to date on what's going on. I know a lot of people also, when I took my kids to school this morning, I saw a few very packed number 15 buses rolling up Montreal Road. So I think people are thinking about other options and other ways, to kind of navigate around that roadblock as they can. But of course, it's going to be some challenges and some slower commutes. People are going to have to build in more time to get where they need to go.
Are residents fed up, do you think, Laura, or is there still patience?
I think it really depends on how frequent of a transit rider the person is. I think if it's someone who takes transit all the time, if they've been, have not had a work from home period, there is very little patience left. If it's someone who hasn't been touched, quite regularly by these challenges, as you've said, we did have a good run of the LRT for quite a while there. But in the summer, we had huge numbers of bus cancellations due to the operator shortage and, some challenges staffing there. And so for folks who are taking that system regularly and who have to do it all the time, it does kind of feel like, one more kick while you're down.
I really do want to give credit where it's due. I'd love your thoughts on it. I feel the communications around this particular incident is definitely an improvement from what we've seen in the past. Would you agree with that?
I would, absolutely. I think, the challenge is we haven't seen, the one piece that we're missing is kind of some estimates. We got them yesterday, but we hadn't until then had any estimate of when service might resume. And I think that was a little hard on folks. I heard a lot of people saying, well, when can we expect to see things return? But absolutely, this time around, they've been much quicker at saying, hey, something's going on, the problem's complicated, and we're going to do our best to get you around as we can. It's definitely better than it was. There were some times in the past, as you probably remember, where it was riders sounding the alarm, not OC Transpo.
Absolutely, and that's those were challenging days for sure, because it really is a trust issue, right, Laura? I mean, I think that's what it's come down to. I really value your time today, and thank you for joining us here on City News.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Laura Shantz joining us, Ottawa Transit Riders, and we're grateful that Troy Charter, Director of Transit Operations for OC Transpo, has agreed to spend time with us today. Hi, Troy.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Troy, we were actually just speaking with Laura Shantz from Ottawa Transit Riders, and I said to her, I feel the communications regarding this particular incident have really improved from other times. So we'll start off on a positive note and say thank you for that, in terms of being more communicative. Has it been challenging for all of you, Troy?
Challenging for our customers, challenging for staff, for sure. It's been a rough few days for everyone, and we thank you for acknowledging the fact that we are really trying to do a better job of communicating what's happening and what our customers can expect. But it's been challenging all around, yes.
So in that vein, what is the latest update, Troy?
So right now, we're continuing to operate. You've heard us refer to those two loops. We have 4 trains running in the west between Tunney's Pasture and U Ottawa, and then 4 trains running in the east end between Blair and Tremblay stations with R1. One of the changes that we made for this week was we have R1 running from Blair Station right to Rideau Station. That helps some customers from the east end get downtown a little quicker, and one less transfer. Repairs and repairs are still ongoing. We don't have an ETA for final completion yet, but as we said previously, the teams, RTM, and in working in partnership with the city, we're working around the clock to try to restore service as quickly as possible.
We did hear from Mario Guerrera in terms of the RTM, representing RTM, talking about a meeting today of experts. And some of the things he was referring to in that clip talk about de-icing, talking about technology, all the different things that may be looked at for future. And I think from my perspective, when I heard that, I was thinking, well, how come those conversations didn't happen in the past? Or maybe if they have, maybe we're looking for new solutions now. But you think about, when I think about de-icing, of course, I think about big planes.
Yes.
But there must be some solution. Troy, we know freezing rain is just an issue here in the capital.
Yes, and there's obviously there's going to be several follow-up meetings and ongoing discussions. First priority right now is the return to service and ensuring that return to service is safe and reliable. That's priority number one. Priority number two is fully understanding why the OCS iced up the way it did at that specific location. And as you mentioned, Ottawa is ice storms and heavy weather events is not unique to Ottawa, and not unique to just this event. We do have winter operating plans in place, and they were activated that night. We had trains that were equipped with what we call winter carbon strips, or you've heard maybe Mr. Guerra refer to ice scrapers. And our operating plan was to keep trains running all night to keep the OCS clear of ice buildup, and that has functioned for us in the past. It's worked in the past. This isn't our first running of the rail line during a significant weather event, and it worked in the East and West End. So what we really need to understand is why did we have that occurrence, between Lees and Herdman Station, that section of track? We need to understand what happened, what was unique to this specific event, so that we can prevent that from reoccurring. And that's where Mario talks about we need to go. Obviously we had winter operating plans in place that have worked in the past. They didn't work this time. Let's understand this event, and let's understand what are other actions that we can take to mitigate. And maybe that's de-icing agents like we use. We currently use de-icing agents on things like our switches and switch heaters. Is that something that can be applied to the OCS and it won't cause any damage to the trains or the overhead cat anywhere? So we have to look at what other options we can take, but we also need to understand what happened in this specific element of area of the track, because the only reason why we're able to keep running in the other portions of the track is because our plans worked. But what happened here at that specific section?
Are you frustrated, Troy?
Yeah, I share our customers' frustrations for sure. Everything that our team wants to provide is what our customers expect. We want a good, reliable service, and it's hard when you see our customers being impacted the way they are right now. So it's a difficult time for everyone.
And when we hear about, obviously plans changing, it means a lot more people accessing the buses that would normally be relying on those trains. We hear that, from a number of people, they're sort of feeling a bit like sardines jammed into some of those buses. What would you say to people that are having to rely on those buses? Are you able to put more buses on those routes so it's a little bit more comfortable, especially when, the reality is COVID isn't over. There's lots of infections going on, and we want to be safe for everyone.
Yes, obviously the reality is when we have a disruption like this on the rail line, there's going to be impacts, and we try to make improvements and adjustments from every one of these events. So we are looking at where we can add additional bus service. We know where some of the pinch points are. So for example, tomorrow we'll try to have a few extra buses at Herdman Station where what was one of the major pinch points, and then if we see buses not able to pick everyone up, hopefully we can get another bus in there and pick those people up real shortly. So we are making adjustments, but it's also a bit of a balance too. We know that we have a limited number of resources that we can use, and we try to minimize the impact on other parts of the network as well. So, but we hear the frustrations from our customer, and we're making as many adjustments as we can, and ultimately we got to get the train service going back as quickly as possible, and that'll resolve the overcrowding issue that we're dealing with, because it's not ideal, that's for sure.
Is this a money issue at all, Troy? If you had more money, I know some people are yelling at their radios right now going, Sam, we've given them a lot of money, but if you had more money, would there be less issues?
That's a fairly big question. I mean, at this point, we need to focus on what the issue was. We need to find out what happened and why it happened, and then we can, once we know the root cause, from there, we can have some action plans. Right. So the focus is really just getting back to service and understanding what happened. But events such as this can occur on any rail line. No transit system is perfect, whether it be bus, rail, paratransit. Technical and mechanical issues can occur and do occur. I mean, you see it happen all the time. Just as this extreme weather events heading into the Christmas season, you saw there was issues on, with the airlines, with Via Rail. Right now, our focus just has to be on getting back to service and understanding what happened.
I understand. I have one last question for you. And we had a listener reach out to me when the 37 people were stranded for about an hour during this storm, and they had to get off and walk on the track and be, sort of escorted in that way. If there was somebody with mobility issues, with a disability, that was on that train when they needed to be taken off, what's the protocol? I asked Councillor Glenn Gower. I know he's just the new chair of transit. He said he would find out the answer, but do you know the answer to that question, Troy?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we have a stop train like that, we do want to get customers on their way as quickly as possible. That night, given the location of the train and the freezing rain, we didn't feel it was ideal to have passengers get out and walk or get transported to the next station on foot. So we made the decision at the time to try to keep them on the train, hoping that we can get those trains moving, because we're looking at safety from a variety of lenses, right? And the last thing you want to do is get people out walking on uneven rock and rocky terrain in icy conditions, and then you create a different safety issue. So that was the reason why they were on that train for an extended period of time. But if there was someone with a mobility issue on that vehicle, or if it was an emergency, we reach out immediately to our emergency response partners in terms of fire services, and they would come and assist with helping people off the train and get them to a next station or to another train. So that's our primary means of dealing with people who'd have a mobility issue. Is we'd seek support from our partners in Ottawa Fire Services or other emergency response providers.
Thank you for that, Troy. One last question before I let you go. Do you have any concerns at all? Like when you put your head on your pillow at night as the director of transit operations for OC Transpo, are you ever concerned about safety on this system?
No, I'm not. As an operations manager, one of my jobs is to worry about things and to plan, anticipate, mitigate, and execute. Sort of that's been my motto. But it comes from a safety perspective. We've got the right people making the right decisions, and we always take safety first and foremost. So I don't have that. Safety doesn't keep me awake at night because I know we got the right people making the right decisions. And in this specific case here, we brought in a team of additional experts to help with the oversight and making sure that all the right decisions are being taken. So safety is absolutely number one. Everything else is second to that. So that's something that I feel very confident on.
Thank you so much, Troy. I really respect the fact you'd come on with us today. I know they're tough questions, but you've been very, very generous with your time. Thank you.
No worries. Anytime. I appreciate it.
Troy Charter joining us today, Director of Transit Operations at OC Transpo. When we come back, we're going to spend a couple of minutes with Steve Warren, get caught up on sports, and then former Mayor Bob Chiarelli is going to join us to talk a little LRT.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we love getting connected with the one and only Steve Warren, host of the Sens Nation podcast here on City News. How are you, Steve?
I'm very good, Sam. How are you?
Good. How was your first show? Did you love it?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, it was
Fantastic.
great. It's nice to get connected with a new audience, and I know that we do these hits here, but you know, just sort of, I've probably done about 10,000 radio shows in my career, but this was a new platform, and so that's kind of exciting. So we had a chance to talk to and the goalie Cam Talbot. We had Ian Mendez on the show, so we had lots of fun.
That's fantastic. And for those that aren't aware, this past Saturday and every Saturday moving forward, Steve Warren will join between 9 and 10 and talk all things Sens. We know the Predators are in town tonight. Very exciting game coming up. We only have a couple minutes today because LRT is the big story of the day, but the Sens are important too. Steve, tell us what we can expect tonight.
Well, the Nashville Predators are in town, and that's a team that's very much in the same boat as the Sens, fighting for their playoff lives. They're a little closer to a Western Conference playoff spot right now than the Sens are in the East. But for the Sens, it's all about shaking off that 8-4 loss to Seattle. It seemed like one of those games where everything Seattle fired at the net found its way into the net, and so they'll try and shake that off. They'd won 4 or 5 going into that game, so it's about getting back on the horse and trying to shut down a Nashville team that's looking for its 4th straight win in its own desperate mode of its own.
Well, it certainly is going to be a great game. We're looking forward to seeing that. Let's talk a little bit about goaltending tonight.
Well, I mean, the Senators right now, they're just in a situation where they want to, and whether it's Talbot or Forsberg, I have not seen exactly who's starting tonight, but whoever it is, both of them got in that Seattle game, and neither of them had any luck. And so it's just one of those games where, as a team, as goaltenders, you just pretend it never happened and move on to the next one. It's one of those deals where, like in baseball, for example, they talk about hitting it where the opponent is not. It seemed like Seattle was shooting it where the goalie was not. And, right now you just got to hope that they can shake that off and have a better effort against Nashville tonight.
Well, we'll be watching closely tonight at the game. Thanks so much for joining us, Steve.
Thanks, Sam.
Steve Warren spending time with us today, host of the Sens Nation podcast. And you can catch Steve here every Saturday between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. talking all things Sens. Well, this morning we've been talking all things LRT. We wanted to get caught up today with Bob Chiarelli, former Ottawa mayor. Hello, Bob.
Good morning.
Bob, we've been talking about the LRT. I'm sure you've been watching closely as well. Has it been disappointing over the last number of days for you, Bob, to see what's happened here in Ottawa?
Well, it's everyone knows that the LRT project is a massive, unfinished, and troublesome file. And some people would even say that it's a mess, and it's starting to raise itself as a significant issue at the City Council and in the media, and it's going to be something that attracts a lot of attention over the next significant number of months.
When you had the vision for the LRT so many years ago, I remember the very first time I ever learned about the LRT was in a meeting with you many years ago. Is this the vision that you had for this city, that we would have a system that was using unproven technology?
Oh, absolutely not. In fact, we did have the North-South LRT contracted for moving forward, and the money was in place, and the election occurred in 2006, I believe. And the new council that came in after that canceled the contract. The money that had already been spent on it and the cost of breaking the contract with Siemens was just under $100 million. And of course, Larry O'Brien was elected mayor, and they started all over again. And they added a very significant tunnel to what was going to be strictly a surface. And that pushed the costs up from, I think the number was $805 million to $2.1 billion. So it was replanned, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. But do you think maybe the tunnel, in retrospect, was a good idea because of the freezing rain hitting those wires and then obviously debilitating it over the last number of days?
Well, it could have still been surface using different technology, or it could have been a tunnel. But even the construction of the tunnel had a lot of problems and sinkhole and so on and so forth. It was not an easy project to proceed with.
Mm-hmm. I have spoke with a number of people today on this topic, and once again giving credit where credit is due. I personally feel from my role here at City News that the communications level has increased in this particular incident regarding when we've had challenges with OC Transpo and the LRT. Do you feel the same?
I would say that the communication has been unsatisfactory. Well, if you look at the outgoing council and you look at the report that was done by the commissioner, there was some significant criticism about the lack of communication. And there are some rumblings now that after 2.5 months that perhaps there could be some earlier communication in terms of which route we're going to be taking in terms of planning and action.
Mm-hmm. It's certainly an interesting time here in our city, Bob. I appreciate you joining us so quickly today on City News.
Well, I'm happy to discuss it. It's a major issue. You know, we have an LRT system that is too often dysfunctional. It's got escalating costs, some costs even unknown at this point, unreliable service, an unpredictable future with uncertain management. So the council has a real mess to rectify.
We're certainly following the story closely and appreciate your time, Bob. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Bob Chiarelli, former Ottawa mayor, joining us today talking about the LRT. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Cam Holstrom and Mary Wong. We're going to be talking a little LRT. We're going to also be talking about healthcare, and we're going to talk about St. Bridget's Church and what's happening there. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Asselin and I'm with the Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talk.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week, we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
WW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
And good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock on this Monday, the 9th of January. I'm Mark Day. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, cloudy and -2. Here's what's making news right now. Portion of the LRT track remains closed today after that ice storm last week, damaging overhead lines, leaving several trains stuck on the tracks. Replacement buses running again. Here's City News reporter Chris Curries.
Work to fix the line took place over the weekend, but the line, though, still not running at full strength.
We are doing everything we can do to provide you with the best possible service under these challenging conditions.
2 of 4 trains have been removed from the line, while work is set to take place today to clear the ice and repair wiring to clear the other 2 trains. This means that service will run in 2 loops, from Blair to Tremblay and from Tunney's to U Ottawa, while R1 bus service is in place from Blair to Rideau. This service, if all the repairs go well, is still expected to be in place tomorrow, while experts are meeting today to discuss next steps. Chris Curry's City News.
City News time, 12:01. Let's get a check of the forecast for this afternoon. Here's our weather specialist, Denise Andriachi.
-1 is the guaranteed high today for Ottawa. Some scattered flurries here in Ottawa and Smiths Falls for the day. But temperatures are, not too bad. Definitely trending above seasonal for today. A little colder tomorrow. Highs near -6 for Tuesday. We will see some sunshine tomorrow. And then we get into a more of an active weather pattern here across the region. For today, the guaranteed high, -1.
Cloudy, -2 right now. City News time at 12:01. And some breaking news from Parliament Hill. Canada has officially signed a deal to purchase the F-35 fighter jet to replace our aging CF-18 fleet. It's a purchase that has been more than a decade in the making. City News Parliament Hill Bureau Chief Cormac McSweeney with the latest.
An agreement is finally in place.
Canada is acquiring a new fleet of 88 state-of-the-art F-35 fighter jets.
Defense Minister Anita Anand making the announcement in Ottawa, saying the purchase will cost Canada $19 billion However, total life cycle cost of the plane is estimated around $70 billion. The minister says the F-35 is the best choice for our country.
Is a modern, reliable, and agile fighter aircraft used by our closest allies in missions across the globe.
The first deliveries will come in 2026 and will have a fully operational fleet by the end of 2032. The government says the deal comes with economic benefits for our aerospace and defense industries, estimated at $425 million and 3,300 jobs annually. The process to purchase replacement jets has been a long and troubled one. Discussions started in the late 90s, and in 2010, the Harper government announced a sole-sourced plan for the F-35. It pulled out after controversies around costs and operational concerns. In 2015, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau vowed not to buy the F-35, but backed away from that when they held an open competition that started a couple of years later. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Well, the Prime Minister is in Mexico today for a meeting with the U.S. President and Mexican President. Trade experts and business leaders will be paying close attention to the Three Amigos Summit after calling on the leaders for a North American vision. The last gathering at the White House in 2021 produced a list of more than 40 different deliverables. One U.S. official says that's not surprising for three countries that share borders. Year after a Hollywood boycott of the Golden Globes, the stars are set to once again attend the show. Eva Franciscatos looks at how the Tuesday night awards show may once again have some major star power.
And the Golden Globe goes to
Brad Pitt and Steven Spielberg are among the big names set to return to the Golden Globes as organizers try to restore the glitz and glamour to what had once been one of the biggest stops during awards season. The president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association says most of this year's nominees are expected to attend the ceremony in Beverly Hills on Tuesday. The Globe's future was questioned after a 2021 investigation found they had no black journalists, and some members were accused of making sexist and racist remarks. Nominee Brendan Fraser, who has accused a former HFPA president of groping him, will miss the show, and Tom Cruise, whose film Top Gun Maverick is nominated, will also skip out in protest of the organization's practices in 2021. Eva Franciscatos, City News.
I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, hello, everyone. It's lunchtime on City News. And do you know what that means? It means that we feast on the top news stories of the day. We invite in a number of community members and business leaders to spend time with us today. And we've included Mary Wong, president of the Centertown Community Association, along with Cam Holstrom, principal at Nippewa Strategies. Hello to you both.
Hello there.
Hi. It's great to have you here. Let's talk about the top story of the day, Cam. And it's not going to be a surprise to you. It's all about the LRT. Have you been following the story closely?
I have been, but you know what? Nothing of this shocks me anymore. And I'm just so glad that I'm not one of the poor people who are dependent on regular transit in the city to actually get to work and whatnot, because this has just been an unmitigated disaster from start to finish. So I'm not shocked, but still, it keeps getting worse and worse.
Mary, how is it affecting the residents of Centertown?
I think it's very disappointing for a lot of the residents in Centertown. This is going on for high upon 4 years now, and I'm just flabbergasted that the cables actually broke, and we are a winter city, and they know we are a winter city. Why didn't they prepare for that? It's something that should have been part of the consideration when they put out the tender, and in the plans, there are people that put heated pavement because of snow, and the LRT should really consider what they're going to do when there's a heavy snowfall like we had for the last few weeks.
And I think, Cam, what's different for me about this particular incident is that we have seen the results of that LRT inquiry report, which really gave us a sense of what was happening behind the scenes in regards to communications, in regards to the people at the top making the decisions. So that has really kind of been the lens I've been looking through this particular incident with. And I will say, I personally think that the communications have been better this time around, but I'd love to know what you think.
Well, to be fair, it couldn't take much for the communications to have been better than before. And I don't think it's been that much better. It's been better by default. So I don't know if that gets you a passing grade in this case. I guess the thing about it that's going to, again, I've been taking the approach of this wait and see with this new council to see what changes. But, as I saw pointed out online the other day, the former head of OC Transpo is now heading up the group that is doing the repairs on this. So it seems like whenever we take a step away from the people who are responsible for this, they're still around. And I'm going to be curious to see how much new direction and new blood is actually put around this project, because this is taking boondoggle to a whole new level. It's one thing to have had one thing go wrong. We mentioned the cables. Let's not forget 2 years ago, the wheels actually started to break and to bend. That's insane. And again, you're in one of the northernmost winter capitals in the world. You'd think you'd be prepared to have snow 6 months of the year, but clearly not. So again, it's how did we end up in this place, in this process? And it's frustrating, and it's making this whole thing look worse. So I'm hoping that this turns around, because I think if it works, knock on wood, it's a great project for the city. But this is just looking terrible, especially when you compare what other cities have done. Edmonton has light rail. Calgary's done it. Other major European cities in winter destinations have been doing it for decades. We look terrible on this.
Mm-hmm. And Mary, I think it's a really important point as well. We're hearing that those conventions are starting to come back to the city. We know we saw the Ottawa Business Journal, them talking about the Shaw Centre and Infinity Centre starting to rev up for busy seasons. Those conventions can sometimes take years to develop, but it really can be an eyesore if we don't have the public transit system to get people around and seeing different sights and sounds from a tourism perspective as well. It can really affect the way that the city is seen as a whole.
Yep. The very large conventions that are around before the pandemic are starting to come back. And for those, not everybody will be in a hotel downtown. Some will be further afield and taking public transit in. So the fact that the public transit is so spotty may actually be a consideration for convention organizers. I know I was supposed to go to a convention in a city in New Orleans when Katrina hit, and they couldn't get insurance, so they ended up moving it to somewhere else. So these are things that make or break the location or the Ottawa's viability as a location for some of the conventions. And we really need to get this fixed. And I'm concerned that more and more are coming out. Before that, they're saying that the city changed the requirements for SAC Lavens Consortium to be in the running, and it seems that some things are on the borderline of ethics and some business practices, and I don't know how to make those kind of decisions.
And we know as well, Cam, when we think about the LRT and everything that it has been through, this has been challenging on our bus system. And the bus system, in many ways was replaced by this LRT, and now we're back to buses. But now they're packed in like sardines, which, is not exactly the best thing as we're starting to come out of a pandemic.
Well, this is it. And you're thinking now of the federal government wanting more and more civil servants come back downtown every day, right? To me, if I would want their position, this would be all the more reason to stay at home, because can you actually guarantee me that I can get on the bus or get the train to actually get to work and back? Can I make it back home to pick up my kids from daycare? These are legitimate day-to-day concerns for people, and you expect these things to be in place. And yeah, I guess that to me is probably one of the most frustrating things about it, is that we made this transformational change, yet somehow, ever since these trains have had their issues, we can't seem to get the backup plan right. We can't seem to get it seems like the bus system has gotten that much worse over that period of time. And, like I say, I live outside the city, and when I was still commuting into the city, I looked forward to the day when the LRT came out far enough where I could park and ride. right? Now, would I do that? No, I wouldn't risk it, because, am I going to risk the chance I can't get back out to my car at night so I can't get home, Like, it's, again, people have to plan their lives out, and right now the system has gotten so unreliable. People, there are people really, really willing to risk it unless they have no choice.
It definitely has been challenging. What would you say, Mary, to someone today that is frustrated about the LRT?
I think we need to have a better transport system in general. They actually changed the route planning so that now the standard is the route plan is being done, I believe, by a company in Montreal, and the standard is 20-minute walk. But that's 20-minute walk by an able-bodied person. How about the seniors or disabled people in snow conditions? How can they get to a bus stop safely and in a timely fashion? And I think the city is not doing contingency planning well, because they actually sold buses when the LRT came on board, and then when the LRT ended up having a lot of issue, they were scrambling trying to buy more buses. It's like, you can't boggle my mind, to be honest.
It is frustrating for sure for people, and we'll be following the story very closely here, of course, on City News. Cam Holstrom's going to stay with us. So is Mary Wong. We hope you do too, on Lunch with Sam on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
What do I like? I like open fires, moonlit nights, chatty letters, rainy days. I like daydreaming. I love this colorful little island of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Yet often my dark moods come. I'm possessed body and soul by this depression. They say women shouldn't write. Some days I almost give up. But I cannot contain my imagination. I made Anne real. I gave her my love of nature, my love of books, and my childhood dreams. My greatest happiness would be to climb the alpine path and write upon it a woman's humble name.
Lucy Maud Montgomery battled depression, rejection, and sexism to become known around the world for Anne of Green Gables and 19 other novels.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we've invited Ken Holstrom to the table today, as well as Mary Wong. Cam Holstrom, of course, is the principal of Nippewa Strategies, and Mary Wong, president of Centertown Community Association. We come together and have lunch and talk about those top news stories of the day. One that I want to talk about, and we'll start with you, Mary, is, there's rumblings there may be a federal election in 2023. What do you think?
I hope not, because we had one in 2021, and the elections are distracting and at a high cost to the taxpayers. So I hope we do not have an election. I hope that things will proceed. And that we have so many issues right now that needs to be dealt with nationally, with high inflation, healthcare crisis, and a lot of others that we need. We need to have the Parliament working rather than going out canvassing.
Let me ask you, Cam, what are you hearing? Is there going to be a federal election in 2023?
There will not be, and I've been saying this for a while now, for a few reasons. The first being some of the reasons that Mary just laid out. The environment out there is not good. No one wants to be going to the polls, especially for your government, facing high inflation and all the high cost of living and all that. You don't want to be out there knocking on doors, getting hit with that. But also the fact is that there is a supply and confidence agreement in place. And I believe that for Mr. Trudeau and for Mr. Singh, this needs to go at least another year. Because I think for them, there's a lot of political risk in having done it. I think it's paid off well for both so far. But I think they need to get another year out of it and get more results from all the things they agreed upon in order for it to have been worth the risk what they were doing. And finally, none of them are ready for an election. Like money put aside, where I think that's not much of an issue for either of the three larger parties. No one's nominating candidates. No one's doing any of that legwork right now. So to actually get that and actually have the parties in place, you need a certain amount of lead time to do it. And to me, it would be foolish for one of these parties or two of these parties to try to throw themselves into an election that they're frankly just not ready for.
Mary, let me ask you this. Do you think Pierre Poilievre would like to have an election?
Actually, I don't think they are ready for election either. I think he's using that as more of a negotiating or debating point than anything else. The PC. I don't think will get a majority or even minority government if they go to the polls right now. So I don't think it's in his interest to force it.
Let me ask you, Cam, you've been following, obviously, federal politics for many, many years. How do you think Pierre Poilievre is going to do with the female voter in this country?
You know what? One thing I've learned with Mr. Poilievre is past his prologue. And, most politicians, especially as they age, they mature, they grow, they learn some things. Mr. Poilievre and I just happen to be the same age. I spent a decade working there while he was an MP and now in his current position later in life. I haven't seen the growth. This guy's doing the same stuff that he did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And he hasn't seen fit to actually just change out of that. In fact, he's doubled down on a lot of it. So when it comes to women, I think there's a reason why a lot of women don't like him already. It's his abrasive approach, some of the policies he supports, and the way he props things up is just his attacking nature. And he isn't coming off of that. So for me, if he's going to make an improvement on that score, he needs to really sand down the sharp edges, lower the rhetoric, and actually bring some solutions to the table. Because so far, it's just been a stronger version of what he's already been. Now, do I think that could happen? Anything's possible. I could get struck by an asteroid tomorrow if things go wrong. But you know what? The fact is he hasn't done it over almost 20 years. So I'll believe it when I see it at this point.
You have done such a beautiful job of sort of capitalizing that for me, because I couldn't sort of put my finger on it. I know a lot of women in my network very turned off by his style, his behavior, his, just kind of the way that he presents himself. I thought some of that was going to be softened in the leadership race. We didn't see that, Mary, did we?
No, we did not. He is still very much on using viewpoints that is very divisive, and I don't get the sense that he's listening to people. And I do think I want a leader that would listen to other people's point of view, because nobody has 20/20 vision. So sometimes if you are willing to listen to others, maybe there could be ideas that can be utilized and either together or leveraged and for better solutions for Canada. So it's I just don't get the sense from Pierre, to be honest. And personally, I find his position and his viewpoints, especially for the convoy, very disturbing. And personally, I would not support him.
It's so interesting, Cam, just to, as a note before we move on to the next subject is, we haven't had Pierre on my show in a very, very long time. It's not because we haven't asked him. He has declined coming on our show to have conversations, and it's really disappointing to me. I know he's very particular now of who he talks to in the media, but what was so ironic about it is he would talk to me a lot for years. I've been doing this for about 5 years. For the first 4 years, came on all the time when we wanted him on, and now he won't come on. So I think it's a really unfortunate choice that he's made not to talk to local media, especially here in Ottawa, being a government town. Anyway, that's just my little rant for the day. Let's talk a little bit about Freedom Convoy, though, Cam. When we talk about that St. Bridget's Church location, we know that a group closely tied to the Freedom Convoy had rented that, hoped to buy it. Lots of legalities around it. They're hoping to appeal that now. What's going to happen with St. Bridget's Church in your mind, Cam?
You know what? One thing I can tell you pretty for certain, it's not going to end up back in the group of those yahoos. It's just not. Like, at this point, if you're the person who owns the building, and after everything that you've gone through with this now, why would you have the trust in these individuals to sell it back to them now? If they had the means, and that's a big if at this point. To my mind, it's frustrating to watch, because it was predictable, and you see how this group operates and what they've been doing, how they treated the community. The fact is, they're not wanted there. They're just not wanted there. And you know what? You cannot force an individual to sell them that at this point, especially when they weren't, they weren't paying rent and all of that. So it's been alleged. Mm-hmm. So to my mind, I'll be floored if they get that sold back to them. And you know what? There's probably somewhere else that will accept them. But you know what? It's not going to be Lower Town. That's for sure.
And Mary, it was embarrassing. I mean, they were using water guns. They had like, paper crowns on their heads. I mean, it just seemed like such a debacle to me. And now we spoke with a professor last week, Michael Kempa, talking about these kinds of groups just like to litigate to keep themselves in the system and to keep themselves top of mind. But it's frustrating for the people of Lower Town, such a great part of our city that has had so much go on with it.
It was a farce when they were occupying the St. Bridget's and refused to leave, and they actually had to evict them through the court system and have law enforcement to uphold the eviction notice, and I really don't understand how somebody not paying rent and not fulfilling the contract for the purchase can stay and occupy the property, it just says that really does not make sense. I think they will try to come back, so a freedom convoy, and there are a bit of nostalgia of some of the people that were here back in early last year, a year ago, and I really do think some of it will be coming back, even though most of the mandates are gone, and so on. But some of them think it's a big party, and yeah,
appreciate.
I have to shake my head.
I'm shaking my head too, Mary. Mary Wong joining us today, president of Centertown Community Association. Appreciate your time always, Mary. And Cam Holstrom, of course, principal at Nippewa Strategies. Always value your time too, Cam. Thank you.
Take care, Sam.
A great lunch discussion today. And when we come back, it's the business lunch. We're going to talk to an owner of a bakery. We're going to talk a little popcorn. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with The Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's 12:30. Good afternoon on this Monday, 9th of January. I'm Mark Day. Right now, cloudy at -2 in Ottawa and Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. And some breaking news from the federal government. Canada buying 88 new F-35 fighter jets. It's going to cost $19 billion. Defense Minister Anita Anand says the first aircraft set for delivery in 2026. Each jet will cost roughly $85 million US. The F-35s will replace the Royal Canadian Air Force's aging fleet of CF-18s. The Canadian government first announcing plans to buy the F-35. That was in 2010, before politics and government mismanagement shelved the program. A portion of the light rail system remains closed today after that ice storm last week, damaging overhead lines and leaving several trains stuck in the tracks. Replacement buses are running once again. Now, work to fix the line happened over the weekend, but the line is still not running at full capacity. 2 of the 4 trains have been removed from the line. While the work is set to take place today to clear that ice and repair the wires, it means the train service will run in 2 loops from Blair to Tremblay and from Tunney's to the University of Ottawa. R1 bus service is in place from Blair to Rideau. The service, if if all repairs go well, still expected in place tomorrow. Experts, they're meeting today to discuss the next steps. And the Prime Minister, his wife, are in Mexico City for the Three Amigos Summit. Begins tomorrow. This afternoon, Trudeau will take part in a discussion with business leaders from across the continent. And tonight, the Senators welcome the Nashville Predators at the Canadian Tire Centre in NHL action. I'm Mark Day for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, what does this year look like? What does it look like from a business perspective? We wanted to get caught up today with Andrea Bourgeois, Director of Economics, Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. Hello, Andrea.
Hello.
Great to get connected. 2023, are we hopeful for a turnaround?
Well, yes and no. I didn't want to say flat out no. So what we're seeing from small businesses is a little bit of increase of optimism long term, but that's not the best we have seen. So it's going to be a challenging year. If we're looking out for the next 3-4 months, there is very little optimism among small businesses, among retailers, particularly low optimism. And we do have pockets of strength in other sectors. I think everyone heard stories from businesses in arts, entertainment, personal services. So some businesses are doing well, but overall, when you look out there, it's not a lot of optimism.
Mm-hmm. There's the recession word, Andrea, and I know it's scaring a lot of people. And how is it impacting small businesses?
Well, for now, we haven't really seen recession materializing. So first of all, let me backtrack a little bit. We're tracking small business optimism on a monthly basis, and we have been doing so since 2009. So we have been through a few business cycles. We have been through the COVID recession even before that. So we have seen optimism levels vary quite a lot. What we're usually seeing when there is good, solid economic strength, we're seeing levels of about high 60s. The index can vary from 0 to 100. Obviously, it will never be 0, even though it has decreased significantly during COVID. Then it has hit, the 20s and the 30s. Right now, when I'm looking long term, our index reads about 53.8 for Ontario, for instance, just to kind of focus on one province, and a bit lower than that for the rest of Canada. So is that good? Is that bad? It's not necessarily perfect, right? It's still low 50s. Let's put it in perspective. And what that means when it's just about the 50 mark, it means that we have equal shares of businesses being optimistic about the future as being pessimistic. So really, if you see two business owners out there, one is going to say, yay, it's going to be good. The other one is going to say, no, it's not going to be good. So, it's kind of neither here nor there. But when we're not seeing levels of high 60s, what it means is that business owners are reticent to invest, are kind of, thinking twice about hiring, thinking twice about investing in extra training for their people. So it's just that reticence materializing in all kinds of aspects of a business. Mm-hmm. So short term, it's really not that great. But then we're seeing seasonality in our numbers, and we're in the winter, and not a lot of sectors are having their best time of the year, January, February. So that's to be expected. Long term, it's on an upwards trend, and that's what I wanted to focus, especially in Ontario. We are seeing that the province is doing better than in the previous months. It had a 4-point increase in December in its reading index, so that's good. That's where I'm getting at. No, there is some optimism. Mm-hmm. Now, the recession word, everyone is using it nowadays, but to be honest, the economy has performed stronger than expected. It doesn't mean that it was great, but we haven't seen any negative growth, as economists call it. So we have seen slow economic growth, but still positive. If that trend continues, we can just about avoid a recession. So what we're seeing from the small business owner side is kind of just that trend of just about avoiding it. Mm-hmm. We're still seeing some pockets of strength, We're seeing some positive signs. For instance, if I look at price trends, last year we are tracking, price increase plans for from their perspective, what they can control. And the numbers were off the chart. On average, a small business was planning to increase wages by about 4.9%. Now, it didn't mean that everyone was about to increase the average. We had a fifth of our members planning to increase it by more than 10%. That's huge. But right now, those plans are kind of less aggressive. We're just in about 4.1 territory. So that's somewhat better. You know, in that kind of trend, I'm looking for small variations. It cannot jump a lot from month to month. But the trend is a bit less aggressive than it was, you know, spring of last year. So that's a positive sign.
For sure, because I think about the conversations that I've had with your colleagues over the years, especially the pandemic years, about the amount of debt that has been incurred by small business owners, upwards of about $160,000, $180,000 because of the pandemic. Now, of course, they're paying more on that debt because of the interest rate hikes that we've seen before. All of that must put pressure on them as well, Andrea.
Exactly. And what we're actually seeing, that kind of debt puts pressure, especially on the businesses that are doing well, that want to invest, to buy any kind of new equipment, machinery, technology, right? It makes sense. So we are tracking actually concern over borrowing costs. And, you know, some businesses are always concerned over their borrowing costs. That's natural. But right now we are seeing about 37% of our members were reporting huge concern over borrowing costs. And historically, that number used to be about 21%. So, you know, it's almost double. And it's on a very upwards, very aggressive trend. So definitely borrowing costs are a massive limited cost on business.
For sure as well. And you mentioned staffing. I mean, this has always been a challenge for small business, that loyalty, try to keep that staff there, paying them fairly, because we know that turnover can really affect a small business, especially when, you know, it's a business that relies on relationships with customers for that loyalty. When you're hiring people nowadays, has it changed, do you think, for small businesses sort of coming out of this pandemic?
Well, we are actually tracking, we're looking at tracking on a different survey how they hire and how it has changed in terms of training and, you know, what do people expect from the workplace, remote work in person. In some sectors, you cannot work remote. You have to be in person. You have to be there. You have to meet the customer. So definitely there are a lot of trends that have reversed. We're seeing that overall shortages of skilled and unskilled labor. You know, sometimes we're talking about just lack of people. Those are number one and number two in terms of limitations on businesses to increase production or increase sales. So definitely business owners are very concerned about staffing issues. Finding the staff with the right skills is one concern, you know, but then just finding any staff, that's a bigger concern sometimes, because if they cannot find the people, then you cannot even train to bring them up to speed. So definitely those are trends that we're monitoring. They're way off the charts in terms of what the numbers say now for the future year compared to where they were historically. You know, some businesses always had staffing issues, and, you know, that sometimes speaks about the business. But right now, those are way off the charts than what we were used to seeing before the pandemic.
Let me ask you this before I let you go. You know, when you think about, you know, all of the, you know, the pressures that small businesses have been through, how many new businesses have arose in the last couple of years that people have been brave enough to start a new business through the pandemic?
Oh, I don't have the numbers in front of me. You know, I'm an economist. I like to see the numbers. But I can tell you that there are new businesses opening. There were businesses opening even during the pandemic. And what the research usually shows is that businesses that open during hard times, they tend to be more successful because they arose during those, difficult conditions. And I find that a lot of our members, a lot of small businesses are very creative during the pandemic. I mean, 2 years before the pandemic, if someone would have said that you would buy something curbside, you would have looked twice and have said, what do you mean? And we were doing it as a matter of days during the pandemic. So they were very creative on how to respect some of those health restrictions and how to still, sell their products or services.
Mm-hmm.
So there were new businesses. There are always new businesses. What we're seeing as an acute trend now is actually in terms of business closures. A lot of businesses survived during the pandemic, partly due to federal help, provincial governments helping out with extra money, but that money dried up. Now it's time to pay back, and some of those businesses were never able to recoup, their market share.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing high numbers in terms of business closures, bankruptcies, and stuff like that.
Learned a lot from you today, Andrea. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Andrea Bourgeois joining us today, Director of Economics for the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. Okay, it's the business lunch, and I love talking to small businesses. We're going to be speaking with Jack Lalone from Papa Jack's Popcorn, and we're going to be speaking with the owner of Strawberry Blonde Bakery. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
$20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I show you how to fill your freezer with 8 different meals for the next time you're in a pinch.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We wanted to talk a little bakery today, so we're going to speak with Jackie Ocum. She's joining us now from Strawberry Blonde Bakery. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, how are you?
I absolutely love your brownies. I just wanted to tell you before we went any further, I'm a big fan.
Thank you so much.
So,
I'm a big fan too.
So tell us why Strawberry Blonde Bakery is so different than every other bakery.
Yeah, so everything we make at Strawberry Blonde Bakery is 100% vegan, gluten-free, nut-free, and kosher. So we really, cater to those people that might have allergies or different dietary restrictions, and there's zero risk of cross-contamination on any of those items. So that's what makes us different, yeah.
Well, and it's fantastic. I have none of that, and I still love you. So there you go.
Thank you. That's the most compliment. That's what we strive to do.
There you go. So tell us how it all started, Jackie.
Mm-hmm. So about 15 years ago, I became vegan, and I was living in Toronto at the time, and there really was no pastry options for vegans. There was lots of stuff at restaurants, but very few bakery items. And because I love baked goods, I love sugary things, I made it my mission to just kind of make them at home. And I just loved the experimentation side of it, figuring out what worked and what didn't work. And I was in the middle of a career change, and it was my now husband, my partner at the time, that said, "Oh, maybe you should open up a vegan bakery." And I was like, yeah, I was like, a light bulb went off. It's like I could be my own boss. I could, keep doing this is fun thing that I'm doing. And then I moved to Ottawa and started doing some market stands. And I had gluten-free options, but not everything was gluten-free. And I really learned from the customers there, you can't really call something gluten-free if it's baked alongside something that has gluten in it. So because I loved experimenting, I decided to try to experiment gluten out of it, and then learned more about allergies and decided to eventually just get rid of all of these things to kind of accommodate everybody that felt, that they couldn't eat regular things or felt a little bit left out, because I knew what it was like being a vegan to not really have any options at all except for fruit or something. And don't get me wrong, fruit's good, but sometimes you want a nice pastry.
So talk to me a little bit about the bricks and mortar of the business. What does that look like?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Well, do you, in terms of, you actually have a shop, correct?
Yes, we have two shops. So we have one in Westboro and one in Canada. And we also do a lot of wholesale baking. So we bake for all the farm boys across Ontario. We bake for different hotels and cafes and restaurants. So all the wholesale baking comes out of our Canada location. But we still have a retail shop in Canada as well. And then we're pretty retail focused in Westboro. And we also do a lot of specialty things. We do wedding cakes, specialty chocolate, specialty sugar cookies, all that kind of stuff.
So it's so funny because the first time I ever heard about your bakery was I had a big games night one night, and a bunch of people came over, and somebody brought the brownies. Yeah. And I had never heard of the bakery before. And then of course I fell in love, and now I visit. But when I saw it in the Farm Boy, not a freezer but a cooler, I jumped for joy because I had no idea that you had that type of leap in your business. What was that like, hearing that you were going to be in Farm Boys?
It's a little intimidating. I mean, originally we approached them many years ago. They came back and said no. We approached them again. They said no. And then they came back to us and said, actually, we changed our mind. And so that was amazing. And they have honestly been so amazing to work with. Honestly, we've been with them for 6 or 7 years, so it's been a long time. But they were awesome at helping us scale. So, we only started with 5 Farm Boy locations and 5 items. And then when we were ready, we added 5 more locations until we were able to build up in a way that we could scale properly. So that was a big deal. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to happen, And they've grown so much over the past few years, and we've been able to grow alongside them. And that was one of the main reasons why I opened up a second location in Canada, because I knew that they kept growing, so we wanted to keep growing as well.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that.
Yeah, they're honestly, they're so great. They really support local business and small business, and they've been nothing but lovely from day one. So,
but this is you. You know what I mean? You did this. Don't I want to make sure you're giving credit to Farm Boy, but this is all you, right? So yes, I want to give the credit where credit's due. So let me ask you this: what is your favorite thing to eat at your bakery?
Well, everybody at the bakery jokes with me that I'm like a little old lady because I love scones and like date squares, oatmeal raisin cookies, like anything with like dried fruit in it or that's not too sweet. Funnily enough, I'm not a fan of like really, really sweet things where, our most popular items are probably Nanaimo bars and cupcakes. But I always go for the things that are something that you'd have with an afternoon tea or something like that.
I'm about to cry. I didn't even know you made Nanaimo bars. And now I want to jump off the air and drive to the bakery and find your Nanaimo bars.
We have lots of different flavors of Nanaimo bars. We always at least have 3 different flavors in stock, and then we do seasonal flavors. Like we have a mint one at Christmas, a strawberry one at Valentine's, stuff like that.
Oh, you were making my whole day. So if people haven't checked you out, what would you want them to know coming into the store for the very first time?
To not have that sort of, not to assume that we're going to be, because it's gluten-free or whatever, it's not going to have any flavor. Like what we do is we really strive to create products and an experience that's just like any other bakery. So, to just come with an open mind and just try it, and they're going to fall in love,
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Jackie, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Jackie O'Cum joining us today from Strawberry Blonde Bakery. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm giggling. I'm giggling because Noah, help me out.
I might have caused Sam a laughing fit. She is prone to these, everyone. Don't worry. I just wrote that our next guest, who we're bringing on right now, is Jack Lalonde, and I accidentally wrote in the document that it is the Jack Lalonde of Papa Jack's.
And it just made me laugh the way that you typed it in, and I'm so excited to talk to you. Jack Lalonde, you are on the line. How are you, Jack?
I'm very good, thank you.
Jack, I cannot believe I'm talking to Papa Jack.
Well, you are.
So I am a huge fan of your popcorn. So you are just down the street from where we are here at City News, and I pop by and see your staff once in a while.
Okay, well, I heard that I'm not sure if it's you or not, but somebody popped by last week.
I did. That was me.
Okay, I'm sorry I missed you.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you, but I wanted to show an opportunity today to talk about your popcorn because you've got quite a story. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Where shall I begin? In 2006, a friend of mine just bought a grocery store, and there was a popcorn machine in there. And at that point, he looked at me and he said, "Do you want to buy this damn thing?" He says, "I'm tired of it." I said, "Sure. Well, what do you want for it?" And basically, it went on from there. Picked up the machine a year later. Basically, I started making popcorn. Wow. Never stopped. And it just keeps on growing, or as I would say, just keeps on popping.
It does keep on popping. And you are in grocery stores now, which really surprised me.
We're in all the grocery stores except for one, and that's the U.S.-based Walmart. It's the only one that I'm not in.
Okay.
We've been into Costco for a while, and then that basically stopped after a little while because of different issues, but they treated us exceptionally well. Wow. So we can't complain for that. And I'm in all the grocery stores. We first started off with Metro. Metro was the first one to support me because I knew a lot of the people at Metro. And then it just went on and on and on. And now we also do the popcorn for Boy Scouts of Canada. So we ship right across Canada for them.
So where do all the different flavors come from? Because it's, we think about popcorn, we think about maybe butter and salt, but Papa Jack's is so much more than that.
We have, just in popcorn alone, not talking about caramel, but in popcorn alone, we have 17 different flavors that we make right here. And if we make 17 different flavors, because they all sell very well. In the caramel, we're just launching now another 5 different flavors that hopefully will appear in some of the grocery stores in the next couple of months. And that would be your regular caramel, the chocolate, the Belgian milk caramel popcorn. We also have a maple popcorn, a cinnamon popcorn, which is basically very close to what you would get at Beavertail, and a rainbow popcorn, which it's all different flavors and all different colors.
It's amazing. And I think when I walk in there, I'm always surprised at the affordability. I think it's a really great family treat for people that are maybe trying to watch the budget as well. And I gave it out as Christmas gifts. I mean, it's really popular.
Everything that we sell in the store is far cheaper than regular grocery stores. And I've also been a distributor for St. Hubert Gravy and all their different products. And basically, all our products are all cheaper than regular grocery stores. Sometimes I'm astounded of the regular price that comes out of the grocery store, but they're there for a reason. They're there because of the increases in price. We try and keep all our prices at the lowest minimum possible.
Well, I love it. I love it. And once again, you're just on Thurston.
On Thurston Drive,
just
right
down
off
the
of Saint
street.
Laurent and Walkley Road.
Right, just down the street from the radio station, which is both a good thing and a bad thing for me because I like to stop in there and get a treat on the way home. But it's been great getting to know you. What words of wisdom would you have for someone that maybe has never tried Papa Jack's before?
Well, I would say, first of all, we make the popcorn all with the top ingredients that we could find. And now I'm happy to say that our regular popcorn now, for butterfly popcorn, is coming out of Ontario, which before that is always coming out of the States. Popcorn right now, the grains of popcorn are becoming extremely expensive in the States for different reasons. There's a shortage of different types of popcorn. Like your mushroom popcorn, it doesn't taste like mushroom, but it pops like mushroom. It pops in a round ball, and that's what we use for making caramel popcorn. Because that way the coating that we put on it will stick a lot more, and there won't be as many small pieces or broken pieces.
Well, I just learned something I had no idea.
There's many different types of popcorn, but the main two are a mushroom popcorn or a butterfly popcorn. Butterfly is what you get in the theater, or from me on all my varieties of popcorn.
Okay, good to know. Thanks for getting caught up with us today, Jack. I really appreciate it.
No problem whatsoever.
And that is the one and only Jack Lalonde, the one and only Papa Jack, right down the street from us on City News, of course, here on Thurston. Love hearing that story. Thanks so much for spending time with us here on City News.